Let me paint this for you. Every single person sitting in this room has a dream. Some of you want financial freedom, some want to impact the world, and others just want the peace of knowing you've built something that truly matters. Let me ask you, why is it that two people can start with the same resources, the same opportunities, even the same amount of time in a day, and one becomes wildly successful while the other stays stuck? It's not luck. It's not even talent. It's the mind. The mind is the ultimate weapon, the ultimate tool, and if you don't train it, life will train it for you, and usually in a way that keeps you small. Think about it, every millionaire, every world-class performer, every game changer you admire didn't just stumble into success. They trained their mind like an athlete trains their body. They conditioned their thinking, their focus, their discipline, until it became automatic. That's why when they hit challenges, and they all do, they don't collapse, they don't retreat, they don't make excuses. They see obstacles as opportunities. They turn setbacks into fuel. That's the difference between those who stay average and those who step into extraordinary. So if you're here just to feel motivated for a moment, you might miss the real gift. What I'm about to share with you isn't just motivation, it's transformation. I'm going to show you how to wire your thinking, how to sharpen your focus, how to create an inner standard so powerful that success becomes your natural state, not some distant dream. But here's the truth, it's not going to happen by accident. You've got to make a decision right here, right now, that you're ready to shift. You've got to make a decision that you're no longer settling for the crumbs when you were born to have the feast. This is not about money alone. Money is just a byproduct. This is about becoming the kind of person who is unstoppable, walks into uncertainty with courage, who builds a life on their terms. The kind of person who doesn't just survive this world, but shapes it. And the first step is to open yourself fully to this journey, to lean in, commit to listening with the intent to act. Because if you stay with me through this entire message, I promise you, your perspective will shift, your energy will rise. You'll begin to see what's been holding you back and how to finally break through it. So don't just listen with your ears, listen with your heart, with your soul, with that part of you that knows deep down you're meant for more, because this isn't theory. This is the path to training your mind to operate like a millionaire's, disciplined, relentless, focused, and unshakable. And if you truly take it in, it can change everything. Let me tell you something powerful before we dive into this, because I need you to grasp it with every fiber of your being. Success doesn't start with money, with opportunity, with the right connections, even with some magical stroke of luck. Success begins in one place, only your mind. If you want to train your mind to be as successful as a millionaire, you have to start by understanding the foundation, your beliefs. Because everything you do in your life, every choice you make, every risk you take or avoid, every standard you hold yourself to, it all comes from the belief system that drives you. And the truth is, most people walk around every single day carrying beliefs that are like invisible chains wrapped around their potential. You've got to realize your beliefs are not facts. They feel like facts because you've rehearsed them so many times in your head that they've become unquestionable. But what if they're not true? If those beliefs you've been carrying for years are nothing more than stories you've repeated so often that they now shape the limits of your life. A millionaire's mind is wired differently, not because they were born that way, because they chose to question those stories, to break those chains and to install new, empowering beliefs that serve their vision. Think about it. If deep down you believe you're not worthy of wealth, no matter how hard you work, you'll find a way to sabotage yourself. If you believe money corrupts people, you'll push it away even when opportunities fall into your lap. If you believe you're destined to struggle because that's how your family always lived, you'll unconsciously repeat that cycle. It's not the circumstances that hold people back. It's the prison of their own minds. But the moment you challenge those beliefs, the moment you decide to rewrite the story you've been telling yourself, entire future changes. I want you to really consider this, what beliefs are guiding your life right now. Don't give me the surface level answers. I'm talking about the beliefs that whisper in the back of your mind when you're about to step up. You're about to try something bold. Do you hear? You're not good enough. Do you hear? You'll probably fail. Do you hear? That's for other people, not for you. Because if you do, you've got to realize those voices are lies. They're echoes of the past, not predictions of the future. The mind of a millionaire doesn't entertain those lies. Instead, it feeds on beliefs that fuel action. A millionaire doesn't say, I can't. They say, how can I? They don't say, this is impossible. They say, there must be a way. And they don't say, I hope things change. They say, I will create the change. That's the difference. Not talent, not resources, not luck. Beliefs. And the good news is, beliefs are not fixed. You can choose them. You can break the old ones and build new ones as intentionally as a builder lays the foundation of a skyscraper. But here's the catch. It's not enough to intellectually know this. You have to condition it. Just like a muscle doesn't grow from one workout, your beliefs don't change from one motivational thought. You've got to train your mind daily. You've got to catch yourself in the act of limiting belief and replace it with an empowering one. If you tell yourself, I'll never be good with money, stop right there and shift it to, I'm learning every day to master money. If you say, I don't deserve success, Switch it to, I am worthy of creating a life that reflects my true potential. It sounds simple, but it's profound because every time you replace a disempowering belief with a stronger one, you rewire your brain to act in alignment with success. Now, let me be real with you. At first, your old beliefs will fight back. They'll scream louder because they've lived in you for years, maybe decades. But just like weeds in a garden, if you consistently pull them out and plant new seeds, eventually the garden of your mind will transform. And when that garden changes, your actions will change. You'll make decisions with confidence. You'll take risks you never thought you'd dare. You'll attract opportunities because people feel the energy of someone who truly believes in themselves. This is why some people can come from nothing and rise to extraordinary wealth, while others, with every advantage, never break through. It's not the external resources, it's the internal resourcefulness. And resourcefulness is born from belief. When you believe you'll find a way, your mind becomes creative, resilient, relentless. You see solutions where others see walls. You keep moving forward when others quit. And that relentless forward motion compounds into success. I'll give you an example. Imagine two people facing the exact same setback. One person's belief says, this is proof I can't succeed, and they stop trying. The other person's belief says, this is just a challenge on the road to success. And they push harder, learn the lesson, and grow stronger. Same setback, two radically different outcomes. That's the power of belief. It's not what happens to you. It's what you believe about what happens to you that shapes your future. So if you want to train your mind like a millionaire, you've got to start with a radical audit of your beliefs. Ask yourself, what beliefs are pushing me forward and what beliefs are pulling me back? Write them down. Get brutally honest, because awareness is the first step to change. And once you see the limiting ones, commit to replacing them every single day until the empowering beliefs become second nature. Because here's the truth: the mind that believes I can create, I can overcome, I can rise is unstoppable. That mind will outlast obstacles, outthink challenges, and outwork competition. And when your beliefs align with your vision, your actions follow, your habits follow, and eventually your results follow. That is the foundation. That is where everything begins. So the very first step in training your mind to be as successful as a millionaire is this: build beliefs that serve your future instead of repeat your past. Because the moment you do, you step into a completely different game. Imagine this with me for a moment. You wake up in the morning, and before your feet even hit the ground, your mind has already decided what kind of day you're going to have. Think about how powerful that is, because for most people, their day is dictated by circumstances. The alarm goes off, they're tired, they scroll their phone, they see something negative, and boom, their state has already been hijacked. But the truth is, the people who rise to extraordinary levels of success don't let the outside world dictate their inside world. They train their minds to be stronger than their circumstances. They train their focus like a muscle until it obeys them instead of drifting into distractions. And that's the difference between someone who just survives and someone who thrives. The mind is like a garden. If you don't plant intentionally, weeds are going to take over. Negative thoughts, doubts, fears, they creep in without asking permission. The most successful people are not those who never have fear or self-doubt. They're the ones who catch those weeds early and rip them out before they take root. That's the work. That's the training. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by daily conditioning. Think about an athlete. They don't wait until game day to start practicing. They condition their body every single day, so when the pressure hits, their body responds instinctively. The same is true with your mind. You don't wait until life punches you in the face to try to build resilience. You train resilience every single day until it becomes who you are. And here's the key: your brain already runs on patterns. Most people just let those patterns be random, shaped by their past, their environment, or their fears. But if you consciously create new patterns, if you design the way your brain responds to stress, opportunity, challenge, then you hold the steering wheel of your life. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated on an idea, a project, an opportunity, because your mind whispered, what if I fail? But what if your automatic response was, what if I succeed beyond what I can imagine? That shift doesn't come naturally. It comes from deliberate training. When you repeat new thoughts, when you reinforce new beliefs with emotion and action, your brain starts wiring itself differently. Neuroscience proves this. Pathways in the brain strengthen based on repetition. If you constantly feed your mind doubt, guess what? The neural circuits for doubt get stronger. But if you discipline yourself to focus on certainty, on possibility, on progress, you literally rewire your brain to expect success. When your brain expects success, your behavior follows. That's why wealthy minds think differently. It's not just about money, it's about the pattern of belief and focus they've installed into their mental operating system. Let's be real, it's not easy at first. If you've been conditioned your whole life to think small, to settle, to expect less, the first time you start training your mind for more, it feels unnatural. It's like going to the gym after years of never working out. The weight feels heavy, your muscles resist, you get sore. That's how your brain feels when you start demanding higher standards from it. But here's the thing, if you stay consistent, heavy mental weights become lighter. The very thoughts that once felt impossible become natural. And that's when your life starts shifting at the speed of your identity. Think about every millionaire, every world-class achiever, every person who has built something extraordinary. They all had moments of doubt, but they built the habit of overriding it. They learned how to silence the voice of limitation and amplify the voice of possibility. They created rituals, daily practices that reinforced who they wanted to be instead of who they used to be. Whether it's starting the morning with gratitude, visualizing the outcomes they're committed to, feeding their mind with empowering content, surrounding themselves with people who elevate them. They don't leave their mental conditioning to chance. They take control of it day in and day out until it becomes their natural state. You see, training your mind isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about building the strength to handle it when it isn't. It's about having the inner power to face setbacks and still keep moving forward. Because no matter how much success you have, challenges will come. The difference is if your mind is untrained, those challenges break you. If your mind is trained, those challenges shape you. And that's why some people rise higher after failure, while others stay stuck. The same storm hits everyone. The stronger mind always navigates it better. And here's the most important piece. You don't train your mind once. It's not a one-time thing, it's daily. Just like you don't eat one healthy meal and suddenly have the body of an athlete, you don't do one meditation, one affirmation, one moment of gratitude and suddenly become unstoppable. It's consistency that compounds. It's the repetition that builds the muscle. And over time, the compound effect of training your focus, your beliefs, your emotional state creates a mental foundation so solid that nothing can shake it. When you commit to this, something powerful happens. You stop being at the mercy of life. You stop waiting for things to get easier. You stop hoping circumstances will change. Instead, you step into the mindset of a creator. You start asking different questions. You don't say, why is this happening to me? You say, how is this happening for me? You don't say, I can't afford this. You ask, how can I afford this? You don't say, I don't know what to do. You ask, who can help me figure this out? The quality of your questions is shaped by the quality of your mental conditioning. Once you change that, you change the trajectory of your life. So let me ask you, what are you feeding your mind every single day? Are you letting random weeds of fear and doubt grow? Or are you deliberately planting thoughts of courage, belief, possibility, because the choice is yours? Your future is not determined by your past, but it is determined by the pattern you reinforce right now. The millionaires, the leaders, the people who create extraordinary lives, they all made a choice. They trained their minds until success wasn't just a dream, it was the only possible outcome. And the same is available for you. It starts with one decision, to no longer be a prisoner of old patterns, but to become the architect of new ones. To no longer live by default, but to live by design. And when you make that choice, when you commit to training your mind every single day, you step into a future where success isn't a possibility, it's inevitable. Let's talk about something most people overlook when they think about success. They imagine that millionaires live in a world of luck, of circumstances, being at the right place at the right time. But the truth is, their success is rarely about luck. It's about discipline in how they think, what they focus on, and the standards they set for themselves every single day. The third key to training your mind like a millionaire is learning how to master focus. Because without focus, all the talent, all the ambition, and all the dreams in the world will scatter into 1,000 directions, never building anything of substance. Think of focus like sunlight. If it spreads everywhere, it warms everything a little bit, but it doesn't create real power. Yet when that same light is concentrated through a magnifying glass, it burns through steel. That's the difference between people who dabble in success and people who build empires. Millionaires understand this. They don't let their attention get pulled in 100 directions by every distraction, by every opinion, or by every little obstacle. They channel it. They train their brain to say, this is the target. This is where my energy is going. Nothing else matters until I hit it. That's the muscle you need to develop, the ability to control where your mental energy flows. Now here's the challenge in today's world. Everything is fighting for your attention. Your phone, social media, the endless stream of news, the worries of people around you. It's all noise. And the more noise you allow in, harder it becomes to think clearly, to see opportunities, to follow through on what matters. Millionaires build a filter in their mind. They don't just say yes to everything. They don't drown in information. They ask one powerful question again and again. Does this move me closer to the outcome I want? Or does it pull me away? That single filter shapes their focus. You see, most people are not unsuccessful because they don't have dreams. They're unsuccessful because they're too scattered. They're busy but not productive. They're working hard, but on things that don't really change their future. It's like running on a treadmill. You're sweating, you're tired, you're not moving forward. And millionaires refuse to live like that. They understand that every distraction carries a cost. Every time you split your focus, you dilute your results. That's why they protect their focus like a treasure, because it is. Think about it this way, where you direct your focus is where your life goes. If you focus on problems, you'll see more problems. If you focus on opportunities, you'll spot them everywhere. If you focus on growth, you'll find ways to grow. Most people don't take control of their focus. They let it be hijacked by whatever's loudest or most convenient in the moment. Millionaires flip that pattern. They deliberately design what they pay attention to. They decide in advance what matters. They let go of what doesn't. That's why they create rituals, routines, and habits that reinforce focus. For example, many of the wealthiest people you admire begin their day with absolute clarity. They don't just wake up and let the day take them wherever it wants. They set their intentions. They define their priorities before the world even gets a chance to interrupt them. They create blocks of time where nothing else gets in. No phone calls, notifications, no meetings, just focused work on what matters most. And here's the key. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it with depth and intensity. That's how real breakthroughs happen. Now I want you to imagine your own life right now. Ask yourself how much of your day is spent on things that truly push you toward the life you want, and how much is spent just reacting. Reacting to messages, reacting to drama, reacting to other people's demands. That's the trap most people live in. But when you shift your focus to creation instead of reaction, everything changes. Your time multiplies in value. Your decisions sharpen. You start to feel momentum building because you're no longer scattered. You're aligned. And let's be honest, this isn't easy at first. Your brain is used to distractions. It's addicted to quick hits of stimulation. That's why training focus is like training a muscle. At first, feels weak, it gets tired fast, it wants to wander. But the more you practice, the stronger it becomes. You start to notice how often you drift. You start to catch yourself before you get lost. You start to hold your mind steady on what matters. That shift alone will put you in the top few % of performers in the world because so few people ever master it. One of the most powerful practices you can build is asking yourself each morning, if I only achieved one thing today that would make the biggest difference in my future, what would it be? That question forces focus. It strips away the noise. And if you make it a habit, days stop being filled with business and start being filled with progress. Over time, that single shift compounds into extraordinary results. Because success isn't built in one dramatic leap. It's built in the daily discipline of focusing on what truly moves the needle. Now, here's something that's important to understand. Focus is not just about saying yes to the right things. It's about having the courage to say no to the wrong things. Millionaires are ruthless with their no's. They know that every yes comes with a cost. If you say yes to every invitation, every request, every shiny new idea, you spread yourself thin. When you say no, you create the space for your deepest yes. The yes that builds your vision, your freedom, your legacy. That's the power of focus. It's not just about what you pursue. It's about what you refuse. And let me tell you, you start living with that kind of focus, people will notice. They may not like it. They may call you obsessed, too intense, maybe even selfish. But that's only because they're living scattered and your focus reminds them of their own lack of it. Don't let that shake you, because what they call obsession is simply the level of clarity and focus that success demands. Millionaires embrace it. They let others live distracted lives while they double down on their vision. So if you want to train your mind to be as successful as a millionaire, you must ask yourself, are you living like a laser or like a flashlight? Are you concentrating your energy on what matters most, or are you diffusing it everywhere? Because your future will be shaped not by how much effort you expend, but by where that effort is directed. The power of your life lies in the power of your focus. Let me take you deeper into this, because key point 4 is where the shift really happens. Most people go through life playing the same game, running the same patterns, repeating the same cycles, and then they wonder why they don't get different results. The truth is, success is not just about working harder. It's about rewiring the way you think, the way you see the world, and the way you respond to challenges. The difference between someone who barely gets by and someone who rises to the level of extraordinary wealth and impact isn't luck. It's mindset. And not just any mindset, but a mind trained to operate under pressure, to stay focused when others crumble, to see opportunities in places where others only see problems. Think about it. Most people are reactive. Something happens and they react. They wait for the outside world to decide how they're going to feel, what they're going to do, kind of life they're going to live. But the ones who elevate themselves, the ones who build wealth and influence that lasts, they condition themselves to respond differently. They don't let circumstances dictate their destiny. They choose. They take control. They don't just have vision, they live in alignment with it. And this is the moment where your life changes, when you stop waiting for the world to shape you and you start shaping the world around you. Now, let's get real. Training your mind isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. It's the mental gym. You don't build strong muscles by going to the gym once a month. You build them by showing up again and again, pushing through the resistance, going further than you thought you could. Your mind works the same way. If you don't discipline it, it will default to fear, to doubt, to procrastination, to excuses. That's the natural pull. That's gravity. But if you condition it, if you teach it to focus on possibilities instead of problems, to find meaning in the pain instead of running from it, to see every setback as the seed of growth, you become unstoppable. Here's what most people miss: the mind is always training itself. Every thought you repeat, every story you tell yourself, every time you back down instead of stepping forward, you're wiring your brain in that direction. So the question isn't, am I training my mind? The question is, am I training it for? Are you training it to settle, to shrink, to play safe? Or are you training it to stretch, to grow, to create, to lead? That's the choice. And the moment you realize you're in control of that choice, life will never look the same again. Now, I want you to imagine this. Imagine you're facing a challenge right now, something that feels overwhelming. Most people in that moment would focus on everything that could go wrong, every reason they could fail, every limitation standing in their way. But someone who has trained their mind differently looks at the same situation and says, what's the gift here? What's the opportunity? What's the strategy that will get me through this? Same problem, completely different outcome. Why? Because the lens they've trained themselves to look through is different. And when you change the lens, you change the game. Some of you might be thinking, that sounds great. I've tried before and it didn't stick. Let me tell you something. Failure is part of the training. You don't become strong by never falling down. You become strong by falling and choosing to get back up. That's how resilience is built. That's how confidence is built. Every time you go through something hard and you push through it, you're teaching your brain, I can handle this. I can figure this out. I can create a way forward. And the more you teach it, the stronger that belief becomes. Until one day, it's not just something you hope is true. It's who you are. I've worked with people from all walks of life. Those who started with nothing, those who had everything but lost it, those who thought they were too far gone to ever rise again. And the common denominator in every transformation I've seen wasn't money. It wasn't connections. It wasn't even talent. It was the mind. A mind that refused to stay small. A mind that believed there was more. A mind that, once trained, could lead the body, the emotions, and the actions to create results that once seemed impossible. This isn't about pretending challenges don't exist. It's about facing them differently. It's about realizing that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. It's about building the inner strength to use every experience as fuel instead of as an anchor. And when you train your mind at that level, success stops being a distant dream and starts being a natural byproduct of the way you think, the way you act, and the way you live. But let me warn you, it's not comfortable. Growth never is. Training your mind to operate like this means breaking old patterns, letting go of limiting beliefs, and stepping into uncertainty again and again. It means being willing to do what others won't so you can live a life others can't. The beautiful thing is, once you step into that rhythm, once you embrace that process, it stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like freedom. So right now, I want you to think about the stories you've been telling yourself. The stories about what's possible, about what you're capable of, about what you deserve. Because those stories are not just harmless thoughts. They're shaping your reality. If you've been telling yourself you're not enough, you'll live in a way that proves that story true. If you've been telling yourself you don't have what it takes, you'll stop before you even start. But if you choose a new story, if you choose to train your mind to see yourself as capable, resourceful, stoppable, everything changes. And here's the key. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin. The perfect moment doesn't exist. You begin now. You begin by deciding that from this moment forward, you're no longer training your mind to settle. You're training it to soar. You're no longer conditioning yourself for survival. You're conditioning yourself for success. And when you make that decision with absolute certainty, you step into a new chapter where your potential stops being a theory and starts being your reality. Because the truth is, wealth, freedom, impact, all of it begins in the mind. And if you're willing to train it, if you're willing to discipline it, you're willing to master it, you'll realize you've always had everything you need to rise. That's the power that's been inside you all along. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a piece of land. That land can either be fertile or barren, depending on what you plant there and how well you nurture it. If you throw in weeds, you'll get weeds. If you plant nothing, weeds still grow by default. But if you deliberately choose to plant seeds of discipline, focus, vision, and persistence, time that land becomes a thriving garden that produces abundance beyond your imagination. The truth is, most people don't even realize they've allowed their mental soil to be invaded by weeds, doubts, fears, excuses, and limiting beliefs. They walk around wondering why their lives don't resemble the lives of those they admire, why opportunities seem scarce, and why success feels like something reserved for lucky people. The reality is it's not luck. It's about intentionally planting the right seeds in your mind, protecting them, and refusing to let the weeds take over. That's where everything begins to change. When you look at people who've achieved extraordinary levels of success, separates them is not that they're smarter, luckier, or born into the right family. It's that they've trained their mind to operate in a completely different way than most people. They've conditioned themselves to think like creators rather than consumers, to see possibilities where others see roadblocks, and to keep going when the average person would stop. One of the most powerful distinctions they've made is learning how to use pain and pleasure to their advantage. Because at the end of the day, everything you do, every choice you make, every habit you form is driven by one of those two forces. You're either avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. The problem is, most people allow that wiring to keep them stuck because they associate pain with growth and effort. They associate pleasure with comfort and instant gratification. That's why they never break through. You see, if you want to train your mind to think like a millionaire, you've got to rewire what pain and pleasure mean to you. You've got to learn to link massive pain to staying the same and incredible pleasure to growing, to pushing beyond your limits, to stepping into discomfort. Think about it, the people who build wealth, the ones who seem unstoppable, they've trained themselves to crave the discomfort that builds them. They've learned to see the grind not as torture, but as transformation. They've linked more pain to procrastination than to discipline, more pain to mediocrity than to risk, pain to staying in fear than to moving forward with courage. And on the flip side, they've attached deep pleasure to progress, to contribution, to freedom, to the feeling of becoming more than they were yesterday. The way you've trained your mind up until now is what's shaping your life. If you've been conditioned to avoid discomfort, then every time you hit resistance, you'll stop. But if you retrain your mind to see discomfort as the gateway to growth, suddenly resistance becomes fuel. That's what separates those who build extraordinary lives from those who settle. It's not that they don't feel fear. It's that they don't let fear dictate their destiny. They've attached so much pain to staying in the same place that moving forward, no matter how scary, is the only choice that makes sense. Now let's make this real. Think of one area in your life right now where you've been stuck. Maybe it's your finances, your health, your relationships, your career. Ask yourself, why haven't you moved forward? If you're honest, it's because on some level, you've associated more pain with changing than with staying the same. You've told yourself, if I try this and fail, I'll look stupid. Or if I take the risk, I might lose what I already have. Or if I start that new habit, it'll be too hard, too time consuming, too uncomfortable. So what do? You stay where you are. But staying where you are comes with its own pain. Maybe not today, but 6 months, a year, 5 years down the road, when you look back and realize nothing has changed, when you see the same patterns repeating, you feel that quiet frustration eating away at you. That's pain. And if you don't use it consciously, it will use you unconsciously. The secret is to flip the script. You must decide right now that the pain of inaction is far greater than the discomfort of growth. You've got to link so much pain to staying the same that it becomes unbearable, and so much pleasure to progress that you crave it. For example, imagine what your life will look like if you don't change. Really picture it. Where will you be in 5 years if you keep doing what you're doing? How will you feel? What opportunities will you miss? What regrets will pile up? Let yourself feel that. Imagine the opposite. Imagine if you push through the fear, embrace the discomfort, and stay committed. Imagine the pride you'll feel, the freedom you'll create, the example you'll set for others. Which future feels more alive? That's the power of pain and pleasure. When you train your mind this way, everything shifts. Suddenly, the habits that used to feel impossible start to feel natural. Waking up early, working harder, saying no to distractions, investing in yourself, saving and building rather than spending and consuming. It's no longer about willpower. It's about alignment. You've linked pleasure to the very things that create success, so you no longer need to fight yourself. That's how millionaires think. They don't need to be pushed to grow. They've wired their brain so that growth is the only thing that feels right. And here's what's beautiful. You already have this ability. You already know how to link pain and pleasure. You've been doing it your whole life just unconsciously. The food you eat, the people you hang out with, the habits you've kept, they're all driven by the associations you've built. All you need to do now is take control of that process. Get conscious, get intentional, decide what you're going to link pain to and what you're going to link pleasure to. Because the moment you make that decision and follow through with emotion and repetition, you start to rewire your brain. Once the wiring changes, your life changes. So the question isn't, can you do it? The question is, will you decide to do it? Will you decide that the pain of staying stuck is too much to bear? Will you decide that the pleasure of growing, winning, of creating is worth every ounce of effort? Because when you do, your entire world begins to transform. The power to think like a millionaire doesn't start with money. It starts with mastering the forces that drive you every single day. It starts with taking control of what pain and pleasure mean in your life and using them to propel you forward instead of hold you back. That's the real training ground. And once you master it, success is no longer a question of if, but when. Because the moment you train your mind to link more pain to staying the same than to changing and more pleasure to growth than to comfort, you've already won the battle. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at a crossroads in life. One side is the path you've always known, the comfortable, predictable, familiar way of thinking that keeps you exactly where you are. On the other side is a path that feels uncertain, a little intimidating, but filled with possibility. Difference between the two paths isn't talent, luck, or even timing, it's mindset. And the sixth key to training your mind to operate like a millionaire is this: conditioning yourself to think in terms of growth, expansion, and contribution, even when your circumstances try to pull you back into limitation. The truth is, wealth isn't just about numbers. It's not just about stacking cash or building a business. Those are byproducts. Real engine that drives sustained success is your ability to think differently about the problems you face, to ask questions that others never think of asking, and to train your mind to see opportunity where the average person sees obstacles. That's what separates those who stay stuck from those who keep rising. Most people are trapped in a pattern of reaction. Something happens, they respond. A bill arrives, they stress. An opportunity shows up, they doubt. Throws a challenge, they retreat. But the mind of someone who becomes truly successful doesn't operate this way. Instead of reacting, they anticipate. Instead of waiting for conditions to be perfect, they condition themselves to be stronger than the conditions. That's the difference between a reactive life and a proactive one. And if you're serious about creating the kind of success you dream about, You have to start thinking not in terms of how things are, but in terms of how they could be. Think about this. Every invention you rely on today, from your phone to the car you drive, came from someone who trained their mind to see what wasn't there yet. That's the essence of a millionaire mindset. They don't ask, what do I have? They ask, what can I create? They don't ask, why isn't this working? They ask, how can I make it work? They don't say, I can't afford it. They say, how do I afford it? See, those shifts may sound small, but they completely change the trajectory of your life because they force your brain to search for answers instead of excuses. And here's the catch. Your brain will always give you what you ask of it. If you ask disempowering questions like, why does this always happen to me? You'll find reasons that keep you stuck. But if you demand from your mind, what's the opportunity here? How do I grow from this? How can I turn this around? Then your mind goes to work on solutions. That's how successful people stay ahead, by never letting their thoughts settle into limitation. Now, does that mean fear disappears? Absolutely not. Every person you admire is fear. Every millionaire you want to emulate has felt uncertainty, doubt, and overwhelm. The difference is they don't let fear be the driver. They condition themselves to act in spite of fear, to make decisions that align with their vision instead of their emotions in the moment. That's the discipline of a trained mind. It doesn't follow the whims of how you feel today. It follows the standard you've set for yourself. Think of it like this. Your mind is either your greatest asset or your biggest liability. Left untrained, it will pull you into comfort, excuses, procrastination, and settling for less. But trained with clarity, focus, and relentless discipline, it becomes your greatest weapon. It allows you to push beyond what's normal and build something extraordinary. This is why so many people start the journey to success but never finish. They haven't conditioned their mind to keep going when it's boring, when it's tough. It's uncertain. A millionaire mindset doesn't look for quick wins. It looks for lasting impact. It doesn't ask, how can I make money fast? It asks, how do I build something that creates value long term? Because money comes and goes, value, contribution, and growth. They compound. That's why people who chase shortcuts often end up starting over again and again. They're playing small. They're thinking in terms of survival, not in terms of expansion. You train your mind in this way, every setback becomes fuel. Every no becomes redirection. Every failure becomes feedback. You stop seeing challenges as reasons to quit and start seeing them as training grounds for your next level. Here's the beauty of it. Once you master this, nothing can truly stop you. Not the economy, not competition, not rejection, because your strength doesn't come from what's outside of you. It comes from the mindset you've built inside of you. That's what millionaires understand. That's why they rise again even after losing everything. That's why they keep creating, keep expanding, keep moving forward. They've trained their mind to make the impossible possible. Once you condition yourself to think that way, you'll never go back to small thinking again. So as we bring this point to a close, I want you to ask yourself, are you reacting to life, or are you training your mind to create life? You letting fear dictate your decisions, or are you conditioning yourself to lead with vision and strength? Because the moment you choose the latter, that's the moment you step into the mindset of a millionaire. And that's the moment your life begins to transform.